I'm speaking with the talented and versatile Dominic Lewis, who has quickly made a name for himself doing additional music on some of the biggest films coming out of Hollywood, as well as hitting the ground running with scores like Freebirds, The Duff, and now the feature film continuation of the hit series Spooks. Spooks: The Greater Good, starring Game of Thrones' Kit Harington. He is also co-scoring the upcoming series The Man in the High Castle with his friend and collaborator Henry Jackman. The series is being produced by Ridley Scott and will be on Amazon Prime. Dom, thank you so much for talking today. So great to speak again.
Yeah, really great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So you've been busy since we chatted last time about Freebird. So many great projects you've been working on, and there's actually one really big project I need to congratulate you on. You're going to be a dad soon, so
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's scary. It's about 8 weeks away, so
wow.
very exciting.
So yeah, congrats to you and your wife. That must be such an amazing time for you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a trip, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm
never do it. It's
I'm not there yet. I'm getting married next year, so I'm a little bit behind.
Oh, congrats! I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we got engaged in October, so we're trucking along there. But so yeah, let's jump right into Spooks. Now, people around the world may know the series as MI5, but in the UK it's known as Spooks, which is a little colloquialism for spies. So for anyone who isn't aware, Spooks is a very popular series on BBC One in the UK. It's a great take on the spy genre, which has been, monopolized by James Bond in the UK and Jason Bourne in the US. So we can finally have, something a little bit a different take on it. So how did you get involved on this film? How did this film come to be? First of all, because you didn't work on the series at all, did you?
No, I didn't work on the series. It was just one of those things that my agent got in touch with me and said, "We're going to put you up for this. They need an English composer. We're going to put you up for this movie, Spooks." And I was like, "Oh, I love Spooks," because I'd watched all the shows, and I think it went on for 10 seasons. And Barat, director, did the very first one, the original one.
Right.
And so, yeah, my agent put me up, and they were kind of toing and froing because, I'm still trying to make a name for myself, so I'm not necessarily there yet.
Right.
And so Bradley rings me, my agent, and says, "Do you think John Powell would say something to them?" So it was a familiar route. So we got John involved, and I think he spoke to Ollie Madden, the executive producer, and said, "Yeah, you need to use this guy." And they went with his recommendation, luckily, again.
Because he was kind of the word for Freebirds. He kind of got you that project too, right?
Yeah. So I owe him a lot.
Well, yeah. Well, he's kicking it back and relaxing, so I guess he can make a phone call every now and then. Right now, while he's on
right.
sabbatical.
Yeah. No, I called him first just to make sure it was okay.
Right.
And he said to me, "Yeah, no, I'll say all that stuff. Just don't rip my Bourne score off," because a lot of the TV show was very close to Bourne, apparently.
Yeah.
So I assured him and promised him that I wouldn't do that.
So when you started on this, did you? You obviously you said you love Spooks and you watch the show. So did you look at what Paul Leonard Morgan, Jenny Muscat, Sheridan Tongue did with the music at the series at all, or did you kind of shield yourself from that to kind of find a new sound direction for the film?
Yeah, I tried to not listen to it. I mean, I know the main theme really well, and I think it was a conscious decision for Barrett and I not to go down that route. Just because in this particular instance, in the movie, the main titles, as you will, there's lots of story going on behind it this time. It's not just credits rolling.
Right.
There's a backstory going on. So I think if we were to do the main title for Spooks, it would kind of take people out of a new story. So we didn't do that. And I kind of, on what John said, I kind of didn't want to go down the route of the TV series just because it was that kind of familiar sound, and I wanted to do something a little bit different and push the envelope. And luckily, Barrett allowed me to do that. So I wanted to go kind of a bit more obscure electronic,
right,
using organic noises and kind of messing with them. And at the same time, having a melodic through line to keep people, the story, and keep people interested.
Right.
So I hope I did that.
Oh no, you did, and
That
that's
was the goal, anyway.
I know. When I listened to it, that's what I loved about it. It kept me hooked throughout the entire time, and even in the quieter moments, it was really, it was working hard. Usually scores will take a back seat and kind of mellow out, but even in those subtle, quieter moments, definitely were getting things done, and I really really enjoyed it. And but so you're talking about the spy genre, and it has certain archetypes that come into play, and I guess a certain approach could be expected, and you're trying to push away from that. But did you try to break the mold of the genre completely, or did you kind of lovingly embrace it at times, kind of the familiarity of it?
Yeah, I mean, there are moments when you can't really shy away from it because the picture's telling you what to do.
Right.
But at the same time, just to go slightly off the point, there's a difficulty when you move from TV to the big screen. Mm-hmm. And I thought they did it really well. A lot of reviewers said otherwise, and it doesn't quite fill the big screen. And when I first saw it and what it was temped with and what the music was trying to do was actually making the picture even smaller. So what I was trying to do was just to match what the picture was doing, and that wasn't the generic route.
Right.
But to go back to your question, there are moments in there when you have to do the thing it's crying out to do, because otherwise, you're alienating the audience.
Right.
So there are moments where I do kind of slip in there, but not overtly, because otherwise it gets a little bit cheesy. And when you see the movie, if you ever get to see it in this country, you'll know what I mean. It's different. It's a little grittier. It's a little more English. It doesn't need that Hollywood thing,
Right.
It would look stupid if you did that.
Right. No, and you get that from the score, and you definitely did that with you had some great electronic textures, and some of the sounds that I was describing to you that I really like. It was kind of like a rope creaking, and then you had cell phone interference and lots of other things that work in layers. So, when you're building those electronic layers and those kind of synth soundscapes, does it take a while to experiment on what sounds work together? Did you just happen to choose, oh, this would be good and this would be good, let's see if it works together? How do you know they would work together in kind of a blending thing?
Yeah, we did a whole sampling session on loads of different internet-based spy communication-based noises. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them went into the audio graveyard. But, we've got things in there from typewriters to dial-up noises to mouse clicks to keyboard clicking, all sorts of things. And then from having all those sounds together, I just started throwing them together, reversing them, sticking delays on them, all the usual stuff. And seeing what worked together, like you said. And the ones that did stuck and the ones that didn't got thrown away and just went on from there, really.
And what was the most bizarre thing you ended up sampling?
Oh, the most bizarre thing, the dial-up was pretty weird.
Yeah.
And we've also got some phone noises in there, which we tuned. So we could do different melodic things with them, and the busy signal on the phone that was distorted and delayed. They were kind of weird. And a delayed typewriter and all that kind of stuff. But I guess the coolest thing, not the weirdest thing, but the coolest thing was with the mouse clicks that we sampled. Because every director in that genre wants the ticking clock. Something's going to happen. That feeling.
Right.
So instead of regular tickers, I experimented with mouse clicks, and then I had Antonio, my guy, program it on the keyboard in a way that when you push a key down, it's the click. An old school mouse, not a new one. It doesn't make any sound. But it's the click down, and when you lift your finger off the keyboard, it's the click up. And that was really cool for me because normally you've just got one sound when you hit a key. But when I lifted my finger off, it enabled me to kind of experiment with new rhythms and stuff that wasn't quite in time and cool stuff like that. So that was really interesting and a new thing for me. So it's cool.
That's awesome, yeah. So, when a composer's working on an action suspense film like this, I imagine you really have to rely on the edit being good, because if the tension isn't built well in the editing, then I'm sure you're builds and arcs become harder to craft. But you know, the score, if you, I mean, when you get a chance to listen to it, when people experience it, there's a lot of long track times, and it seems like you're able to manage some really kind of fantastic builds here. So does timing and pacing become more of a challenge the longer the track needs to be for certain scenes?
Yeah, definitely. The thing with this is that Barrett was kind to me in one way, but not in another, where he gave me a locked cut. But then we didn't, because it was locked, there wasn't that much time left on the back end to get it finished. But, it was what it was. So it wasn't, a lot of times with the process, you start with something, the organic idea that goes into the sequencer, and then you have to chop it and move it around because the picture's doing so much stuff. But with this, it was what it was. So whatever came out my head first time round, my initial response to the picture, kind of ended up being the thing. I mean, there were tweaks here and there, and noises that you didn't like, and maybe make more of this, as there always are.
Right.
But having that lock cut was such a wonderful thing, one, for the time, and two, just because I was able to be creative and reacting to the picture and not having to think about, oh, well, I've got to cut a beat there because the cut doesn't hit now and all that kind of stuff, which, say what you will, it does kind of muck up the music a bit, and it's not your organic reaction to the movie. So that was great, and I think that's why those really long sections work.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah, no, they do. That's the one thing I noticed, and I love when I hear that in a score. When I see tracks that are 4 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute. I'm like, okay, that's great, because you really get to hear the music at work, and really the narrative kind of working too. But you've done this is a fantastic entry in the espionage, spy thriller genre. It's a really engrossing and entertaining score. But if we're talking British spies, it's hard not to bring up James Bond. So let me ask you, if you could score any Bond film ever that's been made, what Bond film would you choose?
Oh, wow, that is a question. What would I choose?
Sean Connery?
No.
Would it be?
The thing is, I would choose Sean Connery as the Bond of choice, as one should. However, the one that always sticks in my mind is Live and Let Die, which isn't Sean Connery.
Right.
So if I could put Sean Connery in Live and Let Die and then score that would be the way to go.
Okay, that's a good answer. No, yeah.
I've always got, when I think of Bond, I've always got this vivid memory of do you remember I don't know if they're alligators or crocodiles, when he's stuck in the middle of that.
And he's running on their heads?
Swampy, and he has to jump over their heads. I always remember that, and from watching it as a kid.
Yeah, and they had the great Baron Samedi. It was the whole New Orleans kind of voodoo, kind of Haitian type stuff. Yeah, that'd be some fun stuff to work with.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in the series that the pilot is on Amazon right now, The Man in the High Castle, which you're doing with Henry. But it got picked up for a full season, right? So the whole season is coming.
It is coming. It's I'm about to start scoring episode 2 in probably in the next week or so. Read the script, and it's really, really cool. Anything to do with that kind of world I'm obsessed with, whether it be Second World War, or I know this is an alternate reality.
Right.
If the Nazis had won, I mean, it's fascinating. It's so strange. The first time I saw it, it was like, wow, this is Times Square with swastikas everywhere. This is so weird, but so cool.
Right.
But yeah, I'm obsessed with anything Second World War. Actually, I've just had my grandfather's ship from the Second World War tattooed on my forearm, so that'll give you an indication on how obsessed I am with that part of history.
So that's good. You have a personal connection to it. And for anyone who's not familiar, it's based on the Philip K. Dick story of an alternate history where Nazis win World War II and they're occupy America. But I mean, you and Henry scored the pilot. I mean, what kind of groundwork do you even lay down? Do you go back to the sounds of the late 40s and 50s, or are you trying to make it modern? I mean, I guess you haven't finished scoring the series, but is there anything we can expect of what the soundscape should be?
Well, yeah, it's a really interesting conversation, and one I had recently with the director of the rest of the series, Dan Percival, on finding that sound of the streets of San Francisco, New York, the East and the West Coast, on what they would be without the evolution of, you know, folk, pop, whatever music it is, what would it sound like? And I guess the quick answer is I don't know yet. And we're doing research into it. I know in the pilot we had some kind of Japanese crooning, which was popular around the time of the 40s. But then, you know, it wouldn't just stay there. It would evolve somewhat, but in a completely different way. So that's the really difficult thing we're dealing with now, and trying to find what that sound is and where music would go under that regime. So that's that part of it. In terms of the score, what we're trying to do is, you know, we went down the kind of minimalist route. And pace was a really important thing for us because it's a slow burner. That pilot. It is a slow burner. There's a great twist at the end, but you got to keep people in it.
Right,
so there's a lot of bubbling things going on. The great thing for me is that we used a lot of cello, so I was able to get the cello out and play it. And the same with Spooks, actually. I played all the cellos on that as well.
On Spooks you did?
So that's been cool to get the cello out again. And thankfully, I have a computer to time and tune me, so I sound great.
No, that's cool. I didn't know you were the cello and the Spooks thing too. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, I think if the check would have been a little larger, I probably would have used someone else. But as it stood, it was I needed to get in the ISO booth and do it myself. So I have Antonio to thank, my assistant, for timing and tuning and making me sound great. But sorry, going back to Man in the High Castle, we wanted to keep it kind of modern. We wanted to bring it up to date, but at the same time, it is a period piece.
Right.
So you can't go completely modern and alienate people. So there's organic instruments, and you've got clarinets, cellos. We sampled kind of the banging on a piano, not banging, but like pencils on a piano, sort of a dulcimer type sound, but it's a bit thicker because you've got the bigness of the piano. And bell things, not quite sure what type of bells they are, but they're bells to keep sort of the beauty of the character of Juliana. But pace was the big thing for us. We wanted to keep it snappy and keep people moving through the episode. So then we mixed organic instruments with, and there's some synth pulses in there. They're very subtle, but they're there. So it's a kind of hodgepodge mixture of stuff, really.
Well, it sounds interesting, yeah.
It's not really like anything else. I'm sure there is something somewhere, but mainstream-wise, we're happy with it. We're proud of it, and looking forward to taking it to that next place, where that is yet. I'm not sure, having just read the second episode script. When we see the visuals, it'll probably become clearer on where they're going, and it'll depend on whether the story is in San Francisco on the West Coast or on the East Coast, and there's that middle ground, no man's land in the middle. So, and the second episode is based a lot in there. So we need to find a sound for that, because we haven't really touched on that yet. So that's going to be fun for the second episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's
exciting.
Cool. Yeah, it's great to hear kind of ideas in their infancy and everything. And I know there's I don't know if you're a gamer or not, but there's a game called Wolfenstein: The New Order, which kind of is a similar thing where the Nazis win World War II, and I haven't played it, I haven't listened, I don't even know who did the score, so it's always interesting to see those kind of alternate realities from the past type thing. So it's always kind of breeding ground for pretty cool ideas.
Yeah, I'm not a game actually, but that'd be cool. The only time I have played video games is when the first, on the current subject, when the first Medal of Honor came out.
Oh yeah.
Based on the Saving Private Ryan thing.
Right, that's Michael Giacchino.
And I was obsessed with. Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. I was obsessed with that game for a bit in university.
Oh, absolutely.
But other than that, as a kid, I wasn't allowed to play video games. Which I kind of thanked my mum for. Made me practice a bit more.
It kept you focused on the right track.
Yeah, either that or mucking around with my friends. You didn't know that. So. Anyway.
Well, Dom, thank you so much for your time today. You've done some fantastic, noteworthy, and such versatile work so early in your career. So it's such a pleasure for us, the listeners. So I really can't wait to hear more in the future. Thanks. And you have a really big fan here, so thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.